Welcome to EagleEyed.
What a break from Manolo!
Interviewing your favorite USA Eagles around the globe.
Tony Lamborn into the 22!
Now, here's your host, Bill Baker.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the EagleEyed Rugby Podcast. Thank you for listening and or watching, and please subscribe, follow, and leave a review. Now, on today's episode, I feature USA Men's Rugby head coach Gary Gold. Gary and I talk about his current Major League Rugby tour, his trip back from South Africa to get on that tour, and scouting current and future Eagles with Major League Rugby teams. He shares his opinions on the new rules MLR is trialing, and also how important is it to have Mike Tolkin back with USA Rugby as the new U20 and U23 director of coaching. And of course, the biggest reason I asked Gary on, what are the summer plans for the senior side? Lots of rumors going around, Lions, South Africa. Gary settles some of those rumors. Again, thanks for tuning in, and here I am with Gary. Gary, how are you? It's been a little while. How are you doing right now?
I'm doing really well, thanks. Just enjoying having some semblance of rugby back. So it's I feel like I'm a bit of a kid in a candy store at the moment now. So just getting to get an overabundance of rugby. So it's been brilliant. Yeah, unfortunately not our team yet. But just to get to watch rugby in the US has been fantastic.
Oh, it's been huge, especially for the fans as well, to see matches on TV. And like you said, I'd love to see USA out there soon. But so how was your move back to the States?
No, it was good. I mean, it was a little bit troublesome in the beginning, being able to get out of South Africa. I had to think it was about 5 flights that I had to miss because I couldn't get out, but eventually managed to get out. And so been back for a good long while now, and enjoying being back. And as I said, we spent some time during the preseason going to visit some of the MLR clubs, and then this weekend with round one managed to get to a couple of games. But an amazing platform that MLR have got at the moment now, where you can watch all the games. So managed to get to watch all the games actually, and enjoying it, and hit the road again tomorrow to go and watch round two this weekend.
So you've seen preseason matches, you've seen the first weekend. What are your thoughts so far about the league, about this year's rendition of the league?
Look, we managed to visit 7-8 clubs as well before they started, and chat to the coaching staff and the strength and conditioning coaches as well. And the chat was pretty much along the same lines. Very short preseason. The guys were worried about how they were going to come out, and I have to say, by and large, I was really impressed. I think there were some teams on the weekend who were really, really impressive. The intensity was good. A lot of the accuracy was good. There was, understandably, some of the accuracy wasn't quite there yet, and that's going to come with game time. But, if you consider how little time these coaches have had with the players and how little preparation they've had, and how much credit the players deserve for their personal growth, and whilst in lockdown and having to look after themselves and keep themselves in shape and keep fit, which must be so difficult to be doing in your back garden up and down your stairwell, with not even having a mate to pass the ball to. I think by and large the quality was really good. I mean, a handful of games within one score, which always means it's exciting, and some really good quality rugby. Yeah, some really good quality rugby, I thought, for the first week. And I think it's only going to get better. As we've seen in the last couple of years, it just exponentially grows and just gets better week in and week out.
What's your opinion on the new law variations that they're trialing out right now? The red card information, the scrum resets. What are your opinions on those?
I like the red card. I think it penalises a team who need to be penalised by losing a player for the period of time that you lose it. I think the player, if it's foul play, shouldn't be able to return to the field for obvious reasons. But I don't think the team and the spectacle and the fans should be penalised. And so to be able to bring back a replacement, I think is a very sensible law variation. The law variation of the 9 not being able to go past the mouth of the scrum is a fun variation. I mean, a lot of teams used to defend with their 9 that used to just go into the back line in any case. So for some teams, not too much of a problem. For others who've got really good defensive 9s who like to chase around the corner, particularly against teams who pick up at 8, they might feel a little bit. But it's quite fun because it allows the teams to play a little bit more, gives them the ability to get the ball away from the scrum. And the no conversion, it doesn't really matter. Messed up my stats on the weekend, though, because the company that did my stats didn't realise that there's no conversions. But besides that, it just speeds up the game a little bit. The one I'm slightly concerned about is the scrum reset. In as much as I might be talking out of turn here a little bit, I think it puts the ref under undue pressure. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of force that's going through in a scrum, and if it does sometimes collapse or the ground gives way or somebody does slip or it's a hot, humid day and you miss the bind, it's quite hard on everybody concerned that there has to be a definitive decision the very next one. But it didn't seem to have too much of an effect on the game in the weekend. And if anything, it just gave everybody a real bit of a wake-up call that, you need to get the scrums set. And if it does that, that's a good thing then as well.
So when you're visiting the camps, attending the matches, what are you specifically doing there? Are you, assisting the teams? Are you looking at overall? Are you maybe looking for specific players or diamond in the rough even this early in the season?
Yeah, I'm not assisting the teams. I've got nothing to do with any of the teams. Actually, most of the teams are very accommodating. I like to think I've got a great relationship with all the coaches. There are some really good guys out there. It's fun to talk rugby. It's really enjoyable to get to hear their insight on their players and how their players are progressing and how they're doing. And even if they're an injured player and they're on their way back, it's always good to get to know that. Unless I'm able to sit and have a conversation with the coaching staff, I'm not going to know what's going on. It's near impossible. I mean, we've got, on our players of national interest, we call it the pony chart, the players of national interest, we've got over 200 USA qualified players that, we're watching at any one given weekend. So, I mean, it's good to know the behind the scenes stuff of what's going on and players who aren't playing. So we get that information and, the coaches are really open in sharing that. And then what we're looking for, sure, of course, we're going to look for a diamond in the rough. We're going to look for American qualified players that we've heard really good things about, maybe rookies who are coming through in their first year. But also, by and large, we're wanting to watch the guys that are on our radar. I mean, we've got the pony squad, but we've also got an EPS squad, which is about 60-odd players. We're tracking them very, very closely. Every single week, we're doing data analysis on all those players. Once we capture a couple of weeks' worth of data, we're then going to start giving feedback from our point of view in terms of how we feel they're tracking, particularly amongst each other. Because I want the players to feel that they know where they're at. They know before we start selecting teams in May, June, they have a right to know where they're at and they have a right to know what they need to improve on. And so that's fundamentally what we're looking to do. And, there's nothing better than watching a game, in the flesh. Unfortunately, we can't get to 5-6 games a weekend, obviously for obvious reasons. But, the platform, as I said earlier, is wonderful now, on the Rugby Network, and now we can just get to watch the rugby, and then if on occasions, which was the case with one or two of the games, I just get to rewatch them again on the Sunday or the Monday.
Now we're only 1 week in, but too early for you to make a prediction who wins it all?
Oh yeah, far too early for me to make a prediction. I mean, they were quite a. I'm definitely not in the prediction game. Thank goodness I'm not in the prediction game because I'm terrible at it. But I mean, a couple of the results in the weekend, I didn't see going that way, and in some ways quite pleasantly surprised. It's great to see that. I do think. I mean, what I can say with confidence is I don't think it's going to be one team who's going to run away with it. I think we're going to get down to a really nice tight finish at the end, and I think from what we saw on the weekend, I think there's a good couple of teams that can be vying for playoffs that would be pretty confident about their playoff abilities.
So talking USA coaching staff, I saw the announcement of the U20, U23 coaching staff, including adding Mike Tolkin back as director of coaching. How important is having someone like him with his international experience level in this role?
I think it's absolutely critical. Tolks he's a veteran. I hope you won't mind me calling him that. He's a veteran of the coaching game now in USA. Coached the national team. Obviously, as we know, went to Rugby World Cup in 2015, then continued coaching regionally in the East, and then obviously, did the first couple of years with Rooney. So it's not as if he hasn't been keeping his hand in it. I mean, he's very much been keeping his hand in it. and now obviously getting on the road and doing MLR games as well in commentary, which means he's analysing and he's having a look at it, and great understanding of the college system, great understanding of the American base. And when we set out and when Hugh and the high performance team set out to look to make those appointments, there were a couple of factors that were taken into consideration. And contrary to popular belief, there was a lot of thought that was given into it. A huge amount of time and energy was given to the appointments of these guys. So one of the things we wanted to do is we wanted to get coaches who cover us geographically across the country, coaches who have got good coaching experience and have got a good pedigree, coaches who have done the hard yards within the USA, and then coaches who are USA based and who we can develop to be coaches one day. You have to have a selfless attitude here. There has to be some form of contingency to take over from me and to take over from the U20s coaches and to take over from the U23 coaches. And that's all part and parcel of basically us rebuilding as an organization and as a union going forward. And there've been incredibly tough times over the last year on and off the field, as has all been reported. But now it's an opportunity to reset, to recalibrate the whole organization. And from a rugby point of view, our pathways and our development program is fundamentally the most important thing, bar none. It's irrelevant of what we've got at the national team at the moment now. If we're not developing young American players to come through the ranks, we're not going to be able to put a team on the field in 2023, 2027, and the years that we want to be competitive. And I think what we saw in 2015 and what we saw in 2019, and I put my hand up for this as well, is we're tired of just being also-rans. We're tired of just going to Rugby World Cups and making up the numbers and finding excuses because we've drawn against England and Ireland and Wales and Scotland and Argentina and saying, well, they're tier one teams. We've got to do something about it. And the thing that we have to do about it is we have to develop American kids and get our pathways going. So what better man to do that, to bring in a guy like Tolks who will not only oversee the program, but he'll be fundamental in terms of helping develop the young coaches that have been appointed to those teams as well.
And speaking of developing, especially from the youth, now also the announcement came out recently about the EagleEyed Scouts. Now, what can you share about that program?
Again, probably better for you to be speaking to Hugh Bevan or the guys in the high performance team. I mean, it's not my remit, so I don't want to be stepping on people's toes, but I'm just excited about the fact that these are the priorities that we're focusing on at the moment now, whilst we've got tough times. If we are, instead of dare I say it, trying to go to Europe and find some guy who is potentially eligible because his grandmother was born in America and he's playing Pro D2 in France, that's not where we need to be putting our time and energies. We need to be putting our time and energies that the minute we're all going to get back to rugby, that we've got a network of scouts, that we've got a program in place, that we've got talent identification models that have been put into place that can get out into the community. We can run these programs, we can capture these players, and we can start getting a database. And to that end, there's 7 talent identification camps that have been put together by Mike and Hugh and their coaching staff, Kyle and those guys as well, the coaching group that was announced. And they're visiting 7 cities over May and June across the United States and Hawaii. And they're running talent identification camps, and they're actually going to be coaching those players, and they're going to be capturing the information. They're going to be doing their numbers. And then post that, there's going to be a selection process of them being able to bring these guys into longer term, more intense camps where we're actually then going to start building up a program of these junior players and then fast develop them as quickly as we possibly can to hopefully be Eagles sooner rather than later.
That's brilliant. Now, senior side information. What's next for the USA Rugby squad?
Well, I wish I knew. As I'm sure you know as well, there's loads of stories and rumours doing the rounds at the moment. We obviously got the confirmation now that it looks like the British and Irish Lions series is moving back to South Africa. That has significant effects on us because we do have a couple of fixtures in the pipeline that we do have to focus on whether we're going to be able to achieve those or not. So again, in truth, I can't tell you definitively. This time last week I was pretty confident that we were well on our way to being able to know the answer to that, and now that's been thrown a little bit of a curveball at the moment now. But at this particular moment in time, we are still due in the calendar to play England, and we are still due to play them on the 11th of July. And hopefully we're going to be able to get a couple of fixtures in the weeks before that as well. That's what our plan is at the moment, that we're looking to get a fixture on the 26th of June and then the 3rd of July, and then the 11th of July to play England. And then in the first 2 weeks of September, we've got Rugby World Cup qualifying games against Canada, which is obviously then going to be our focal point. So we really want to use the July window as an opportunity to reassemble. Really, believe it or not, actually do a wash-up from the World Cup. We haven't been able to do that in person. We've only been able to do that virtually. Refocus and calibrate on, what we believe is going to be important as a 15s group, and really use that time against such good opposition to give ourselves the best chance of trying to be cohesive and get ready for our reassembly back in September when we then get down to the real business, and that's trying to qualify for the next World Cup.
And lastly, Gary, you've just mentioned matches potentially in July. That being the end of the MLR season, is there any communication between you, USA Rugby, and the MLR sides to release players, or is that something that's already been in the works?
Absolutely. No question of a doubt. Before the ball was even kicked in the MLR. Again, through no fault of anybody, the MLR window was moved to COVID, so the MLR would have or should have been finished by then. And that window is our Reg 9 window. That's the Reg 9 window that World Rugby give us to play those games. It's the reason why the British and Irish Lions are playing. It's the reason why Wales were potentially going down to Argentina and Ireland were going to New Zealand. That is the window. So that's the window that we're allocated. So we have communicated to the clubs, absolutely. They know that there are 3 potential fixtures. And we've had good conversations with the clubs. The clubs have understandably got concerns. I mean, interestingly enough, we brought those games a week earlier so that we can allow the players to go back to the clubs, because it won't be the week of playoffs. It'll be the week before that. So if a team is still preparing for playoffs, or they're just on the brink and they've got a game to go, at least they get their national players back. And then we've got a responsibility to the clubs as well. I've got to be sensible about, I can't go to one club and, take 12 of their players out of one club, I've got to be sensitive to that. In saying that, I've also got a responsibility that, we've got test matches to win, and, I've got a national team to represent and against some potentially pretty darn good opposition. So it's never an easy task out there, but, I think, I'd rather be in a tough position like this and have the opportunity to be playing teams of England's caliber than not be having games at all. So it is a bit of a hurdle at the moment, and it's something that we have to, we will continue to address. But the games in September and then potential games in October for Rugby World Cup qualifiers, should we be successful, are obviously out of the MLR window. And so then it doesn't affect our relationship. And that was the really exciting thing about our relationship with the MLR, is that when we moved when we worked so hard, and Dan Payne helped us, and we moved so hard to move the ARC window out of that February-March window, because we didn't want to clash with the MLR. And we went to World Rugby and we made our submissions, and we then moved it to the August-September window. It was always supposed to be from January through to the end of June, it was going to be MLR. And then we were in a position to be one of the only countries in World Rugby that didn't have a country versus club row. We could allow our players to play for their clubs and with our blessing, and which obviously they still do have. But we were never going to have camps. We were never going to bother them. We were going to just let them play for their clubs. Then assemble in July, then assemble for what was going to be the ARC, and then hopefully go on November tours. So an international player would have a really good year of rugby with enough downtime between in August and then at the end of September, at the end of ARC, for him to also rest up as well and meet the guidelines. So hopefully we can get back to that, but once we get through COVID and all these crazy times.
Well, Gary, thank you so much for giving me your time, and good luck going into the summer, and we're cheering for you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time as well.
Thank you, Gary.